It's the weekend and you have financial questions that need answering. That can only mean one thing. It's time for Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome. It's Jill on Money. Thanks for tuning in to us today. This is the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life. I am your host, Jill Schlesinger, CBS News business analyst and certified financial planner. And I'm joined by the best executive producer in the world, Mark Talercio, who is also a certified financial planner. And what we try to do here is we try to help you navigate your financial journey. We do that with a little bit of common sense, a little bit of knowledge about this business, and also maybe with a sense of humor, we hope. If you've got a financial question, we'd really like to hear from you. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com, askjill@jillonmoney.com. And here's an exciting part of the program. We are sponsored by Facet Wealth. Facet Wealth. Now, you've heard their chief evangelist, which is a dopey title, but I like this guy anyway. The chief evangelist is Brent Weiss, and he's been on the program with us before. He'll be on later this month. He explained the model of Facet Wealth to us, and Mark and I kind of into it. He says that this is financial planning that is accessible to lots of different people out there because they do flat fee, conflict-free planning. And the advice givers are not call center people. They're certified financial planners who have a fiduciary duty to put you first. And I think that's kind of cool. I also think that the model of not having a wealth or an account minimum is kind of neat. So check it out. If you want to find out more, go to facetwealth.com. Hey, Mark, I was taking a Peloton class with our boy Dennis, who plays a little bit like eclectic music, I just want to say. And he used a phrase that I thought was really good, and maybe we could steal it. And he says, I advise and you decide. Meaning, he's going to say, here's what I think you should do. This is how I think you should approach your ride. But that's kind of how we look at our role here for you guys, that we give you advice, but you decide what you want to do with that. And there are times we talk to you and you are, I can tell, sort of rolling your eyes. I know. And, and Mark and I are basically pretty wimpy, and we fully admit that. So you may have a different perspective on where you want to go with it. But if you'd like our opinion, we would love to hear from you. And don't forget to tell us if you want to come on the air with us, because we're doing that more and more. Mark has all of the ability to make that work. So we had a question from John, who was going through a divorce. As a result, he was looking at all of his financial decisions that he had made. He's in his 50s, and he said that he had purchased a long-term care insurance policy. And he wanted to know, should he let the policy go or keep making the payments? He asked, what should I do? And I asked him for some more details. And he says that he's 56. His ex-wife is 45. They've got two daughters in their teens. And he says he's been self-employed for more than 30 years. I asked about the joint assets. He basically said that, after the divorce, they're each going to have about $325,000 each. And then he writes this, which I thought was fascinating, Mark. Assuming the prenup holds up. So he signed a prenup. Interesting. I will end up with about $1.3 million in real estate equity. And then I'll have the $325,000 of the assets. And he said that, he will probably make about $150,000 a year or so, maybe up to $170,000. And then he'll have to use some of that money to pay for child support and alimony. All he has to worry about is his own long-term care insurance. Here's the long-term care. It's has an elimination period of 100 days, meaning that you have to wait 100 days before you can actually use it. It's a benefit period of 2 years at 100% or 4 years at 50%. The daily benefit amount is about $300 a day in a facility, about $150 for home care, and there's an inflation protection. And he says he's got a 10-year plan, and he's about halfway through. And he says, what should I do? Should I preserve the next 32 grand and forget about the loss? And I really appreciate your unbiased opinion. Mark, what should we do about this long-term care policy? What do you think? I am too. So Mark just said he's kind of on the fence. I'm on the fence also, and here's why. It's a good policy, I can tell. There's a lot of good features about this. And I'm inclined to have you continue it. And I'm going to tell you why. Because you said you have this real estate, that is an illiquid asset. Okay. And I'm a little bit concerned that if you were to need any care, then you would be forced to potentially sell real estate and, which you could totally do, but it might be at a depressed value. In some respects, this would be like buying extra insurance for your estate, for your kids. Because when people have a lot of assets, like 325 grand, if that were your only money that you had, then you kind of don't need it, because if you're single and you've got $325,000 in assets, you spend the money down and you qualify for assistance through Medicaid. But, you've got more than the Medicaid limit. You've got some assets, and the asset is an illiquid asset. So that's the part of it that makes me a little bit nervous. I'm going to say he keeps it, Mark. I think it might be a keeper. I know Mark points out it's about $32,000 over the next group of years, 4 or 5 years. I think he should keep it. That's what I think. And I think that the way to maybe consider it is to say, you know what? I'm going to pay this money, and it's to preserve this for my kids. How about that? And I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm going with it, Mark. I hope you're on board. It's only 30 grand. Look at Mark spending your 30 grand. But these long-term care policies are very tricky, because I think that some of them really stink, and this looks like a good one. It has the inflation protection. I guess that if you really were like under the gun money-wise, it might be tough, but you have some cash available. It'll work. I'm so sorry that you're getting divorced. This is just one of those prime examples, Mark, that divorce is expensive and it's not good for either person in the couple. And I'm not saying that you should stay married. I'm just saying that financially it's quite devastating. And I'm sorry for you guys. Well, I'm interested. Mark says, did you wanted to know? Maybe send us just a note after you listen to this. But we want to know, did you have some inkling that there was potentially a problem? Like, what encouraged you to create the prenup in the first place? Prenups are very tricky emotionally, I think. Anyway, thank you so much for writing, and good luck to you. You're listening to Jill on Money, and when we return, we're going to take a live listener question. Sort of live. It's already been recorded, but you get the drift. Jill on Money, that is our website. Go check it out. We'll be right back.
Back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger helps you take the mystery out of your finances.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. And if you have a financial question, we sure would love to hear from you. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. askjill@jillonmoney.com. And if you're on the website, where I hope you're doing all sorts of fun things, like maybe signing up for our free weekly newsletter, and maybe you're watching some TV segments that I did, or maybe you're listening to some old shows, whatever the case, it would be fantastic if you clicked on the contact button Tell us what your financial question is and let us know if you'd like to be on the air with us live. That would be kind of cool. And we can arrange it. I mean, when I say we, I mean Mark, because he does all this stuff. Hey, here's a question. Mark, what do you think about with the weekly newsletter? Do you think that we should be putting in all sorts of cool stuff and then charging for it? Would anyone pay for it? What do you think? I know. Well, if we got some subset, what would you want? Okay, here's a question, listeners. What would you want in a newsletter that would prompt you to pay for it? And I'm not talking about a lot of money, like $5 a month or something. What would make you want to pay for that newsletter? What would it be? What could we offer? It's sort of hard because we have a lot of the stuff that we do on this show is kind of common sense, and it's also information that's out there in the universe. So it's not like, oh, I'm going to give you like the coolest, newest way to, I don't know, buy Bitcoin, because I'm not going to. Okay, Mark says maybe we do it as like you jump to the front of the line to get on the air with us. That could be an interesting way to do it. All right, let's get to your questions. We want to remind you that we don't discriminate whether you have a lot of money or no money. We'd love to hear from you. This is a conversation with Suzanne from Connecticut, who falls in the category of a lot of money. So tell us about your blessed life and how we can help you out.
Okay, so I am 39 years old. I'm married. We just moved from New York City to Connecticut. My income is $255,000 a year. My husband's income is $410,000 a year. So we just bought this house in Connecticut. It's a 30-year mortgage at 3.125 interest on 1.1 million.
Ooh, that's a biggie. How much of a house did you buy up there in the fancy Connecticut land?
It's over 5,000 square feet.
Oh my God.
Pool. Yeah.
Oh my God. How much did you pay for it?
So 1.385.
How old's your husband?
He is 46 and I'm 39.
And kids?
No kids, no plan to have kids.
Wait a minute. Why did you move out of the city? Why do you need 5,000 square feet? You don't have any kids.
It's good to have the space. We set up a home gym.
Oh, nice. I like that.
And we each have an office.
Do you think that you're both going to end up working from home, though? In other words, do you think that post-pandemic that you will, in fact, be in a place where you're like, hey, you know what? We actually are working from home full time.
I probably will. I'm an attorney, so a lot of the work I do is just online anyways. My husband will be he's been going in and he'll still go in because he works at a hospital.
Whoa, wait a minute. So he's got to commute?
Yes, he commutes, but we do keep a small apartment in the city for like the days he has to stay in. And I've actually been going in with our dog as well. So
how much does this small apartment in New York City cost you?
$2,000 a month.
Geez, you're burning through money, girl. So tell me about what's going on and how we can help you out.
So I did have a few questions related to just our retirement planning and doing a Roth. But first, I just wanted to get your opinion on, are we still on track with retirement, even with buying the house and like taking out this mortgage? It's just a huge mortgage. So, we're kind of like, oh, did we set ourselves back? Are we still going to be okay?
So let me ask you a question. I mean, the deed is done.
Yes.
So let's say I run all these numbers and I say, yeah, you screwed yourself. What are you going to do with that information?
I don't know. I mean, we could potentially sell the house.
What do you mean after you put in the gym and the home offices?
Probably not a good idea, but we're still I think it's just a huge purchase for us. So
yeah, it was huge. Did you sell something in the city to get there, or were you renting in the city?
No, we were renting, and we've put in over $500,000 towards rent. So
yeah, but what was the rent? What was the monthly rent before you left?
The monthly rent was $3,200 a month. However, we were going to leave. We were either going to like leave and buy a house or move to a 2-bedroom because the 1-bedroom was like too much with us working from home and the dog and having.
I get that. That I get totally. Okay, so let's go and talk about your retirement. So you're an attorney. Do you work for a firm or do you work for yourself?
I work in-house for a company.
Okay. So on the 255 grand in income, what do you put away into your retirement right now?
So I max out. I put in the 19,500, and my employer matches 3,000 into a regular 401k.
Got it. Okay. And how much is in there right now?
So that's with Vanguard. It's about 150k.
Okay. And any other retirement assets in your name?
Yes. So I have Fidelity accounts. I have a rollover IRA from previous employers, and I rolled everything over into one Fidelity account, and so that has 406,000.
Okay, good.
And I have a Fidelity Roth IRA with 31,000, and a Fidelity traditional IRA at 34,000. And then I just have a regular Fidelity brokerage account with 132,000.
Very good. Tell me about husband, hospital man. What's he got?
He has a checking and savings of about 600k.
What?
Yes.
Why?
He likes to keep things liquid.
I mean, that's a little bit beyond, but okay. Continue.
He has 200k in brokerage accounts, and he has about 500 to 600 in 403b target retirement fund.
So let's talk a little bit about his 600,000. Could some of that get wrestled away from him or not? What do you think?
No, that's
sacrosanct.
Yeah.
But in checking and savings?
Yeah.
Not even in like a CD, high yield money market, nothing like that? No.
Yeah. The 200k in brokerage accounts is some of that is actually in money markets. So.
Oh my God. Did he grow up like poor immigrant? Did he flee an autocratic society? I mean, what is behind that? Really, I'm fascinated.
I often wonder the same thing, and I've accepted that we have different money risk profiles.
Does that encourage you? Do you sort of think of that as like, since that's so there, do you take more risk in your own asset management?
I think I've taken more risk even like before we met. Like the ups and downs in the stock market never really worried me because I've always just thought I'm in it for the long haul. But I kind of just have accepted like that's his risk profile with money, and that's who he is.
Okay. So. In his 403b, will he assume some risk, or is that also very low risk?
That's all in target retirement.
Okay. So you know what? It's better. So fine. He probably has 700 in cash and cash equivalents and another 700 between the brokerage and the 403b. So, okay. I mean, at least it's something. I just wanted to make sure he wasn't all in cash. All right. So you're doing okay. You made it harder on yourselves, obviously, because you bought this house. I mean, there's no way for me to sugarcoat that. That was an extravagant purchase that you've made, and because you've already made it, it's hard for me to go back and be like, sell it, because I think that that's just highly unlikely, and as you admitted, it's not going to happen. So now let's talk about what you need to do around this. I look at both the home and the small apartment as like the indulgent part of your life. To me, it's just like a lot of money. We'll get back to the rest of our answer to Suzanne's question in just a minute. If you have a question yourself, whether you're moving across state lines or not, or you're doing something different in your financial life, let us know. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. We'll be right back.
Do I invest here? Should I put my money there? Jill Schlesinger can help you. Back to Jill on Money.
You're back. It's Jill on Money, and this is the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life. We would love to hear from you. All you need to do is send us an email, ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com, ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com, and you too can broadcast with us from the Capital One Bank virtual studios. Capital One, this is banking reimagined. What's in your wallet? All right. Before we went to the break, we were on the line with Suzanne from Connecticut. So we want to get back to finishing up her question and answer. Here goes. Here's the rest of Suzanne's question. If you could break it down, what do you think your monthly nut is for everything that you guys do? Not even pandemic, but I'm just saying, like, if you flash forward to post pandemic, what do you think you're spending a month? 10, 12, 15 grand?
I would say 12 would be like a solid estimate.
Do you save beyond the retirement accounts right now? Do you save money?
Yes. So he saves probably like 8,000 a month, and I'm saving 5,000 a month. I have like an auto transfer from banking to my Fidelity every month.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. I mean, look, that's awesome. So I mean, I don't want to go nuts either. So it seems to me that like between retirement and your savings, you're saving about 16 grand a month, which is great. Let's just round it about like you're saving 200 grand a year. And
Mhm.
that's great on your current incomes. You're maxing out. I mean, are you screwed for retirement? No. Did you make it harder for yourselves? Yes.
Mhm.
And if I were feeling tight in any way, because like if you said to me, oh no, we spend every single dollar we make, then I would be like, you got to sell the house, you got to get rid of the apartment. I think you probably can do this. I really
Mhm.
do. It really just presumes that you guys are willing to work really hard and continue working. Like if for some reason he said, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. I hate my job. And all of a sudden, and I hate commuting. So
Mhm.
instead of making 400,000, he makes 200,000 doing something else in the state of Connecticut. I don't know what. And now all of a sudden you cannot save as much money. It's not going to look so rosy.
Mhm.
So here's a thing that you've done. You've kind of put a little bit of a ball and chain around yourselves. But if you're willing to kind of lug it, I think you can make this work because you are saving so much money.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the key here. You got money in savings and you're currently saving. And if you're willing to keep doing that and continue to work, then you're going to be fine. You know what? Sometimes when you've done that, like a lot of people will say to me, like, oh, I have the golden handcuffs. And I always say, you know, you did put golden handcuffs on yourself, but you have the keys to those handcuffs.
Mhm.
And here's the key. If you ever feel like it's too much, you can blow out the house. You can get rid of it.
Mhm.
You could really say, we're done. And you know what? We're going to go rent for a little while. And the whole idea that your preface of saying like we spent $500,000 on rent and we threw it out the window, you didn't. Look at all the money you saved.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, so I wouldn't look back and be like, oh, I wish I'd done something different. You have the key to your golden handcuffs. You had them. And so if you guys want to do something different in your lives, you don't have kids who are like sucked into a school system. You don't have a big worry about something bigger happening in your life. You know, I presume you don't have to support any family members because you're saving so much money. And so in reality, the keys to your golden handcuffs are that you can make different choices. You can sell the house, you can get rid of the apartment, you could do, you know, whatever it is you want to do. So I'm okay with this. You just made it harder for yourself. How do you feel when I say that?
I feel better actually because I kind of felt like what did we get ourselves into? But I feel better that we're gonna be okay.
You
And
are.
who
You
I,
really are. I mean, I truly don't think, I think it's funny with your husband to do the, you know, like, oh my God, I need to have cash. But like you said, let it go. And you can actually be more aggressive as a result because knowing that he has 700 grand essentially in cash or cash equivalents gives you the license to take some more risk in your own portfolio. Okay.
and that was my other question was in my portfolio, I'm basically all in index funds other than my 401k target retirement. So I
Mhm.
wasn't sure if I was like too heavily invested in stocks.
No, I mean, he's got so much cash, I wouldn't worry about it.
Okay.
Um, anything else that I've missed for you?
I do have a question about the Roth. So my employer offers 401k traditional and then Roth 401k. And the Roth 401k is relatively new. They didn't always offer it. And I wasn't sure if you recommended I put some into the Roth 401k, some into the regular, if I should split it. What your thoughts are on that?
I mean, look, your deduction is going to be limited to 10 grand, right? Because your state and local tax deduction is going to be at 10 grand, which means you're still going to be in a pretty high tax bracket. The way I look at it, you're in 35-ish, right?
Yeah.
That's a tough one for me. Ed Slott, my favorite go-to guy about Roth, says, no, you should always have some Roth. But then my one of the guys I know who's a CPA and a CFP, Michael Goodman, he's not like a huge Roth fan when you're in the 35 or 37% tax bracket.
Right.
So if you'd like to have some money, have, sort of the Roth construct, you could, do a little bit. I don't think it's going to be a game changer for you either way, just because you're in a big tax bracket. So that's my feeling. Like, I think having some money that's already been taxed is good. But in retirement, will your tax bracket be 35%? I don't know. I guess taxes could go up a lot and you will have a lot of money. But so maybe a little bit, maybe like 2/3 traditional, 1/3 Roth.
Okay. Yeah. Because it's hard to predict what my tax bracket will be.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
And it's just that you guys make a lot of money and you'll be making a lot of money and you'll have a lot of money in traditional, which means you'll be forced to take out a lot of money. But I still think you're in a high tax bracket. Mark, do you have a different opinion on that? Mark likes the idea of you having some Roth money. So, maybe do a little bit. And you also have some money in non-retirement assets that haven't been taxed because Mr. Scaredy Cat, afraid of my own shadow, your husband, will always keep having that money in the cash account. So, I mean, look, like I said, some money in Roth is fine, but you're in a high tax bracket. That's not going to change too much.
Okay.
All right.
Great.
If you'd like to come on the air with us, just like Suzanne, all you need to do is send us an email. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. Or if you're on our website, just hit the contact button and we'll get your message. We'll be right back.
.401ks, IRAs, refinancing, she covers it all. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. And hey, we encourage you to get more of Jill and Mark. How can you do that? A couple of ways. Number one, you can subscribe to our sister broadcast. It is called Jill on Money. Get it? It's just like this, Jill on Money. But that, when I talk about subscribe, we're talking about a podcast. And our podcast is available anywhere you get podcasts. Maybe if you don't know how to do it, just go to our website. Go to JillOnMoney.com. And when you get to the front door of the website, you scroll down and it says Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger. And it's the podcast. And there's a button that says subscribe here. Now, that allows you to subscribe through the Apple podcast. You can also subscribe anywhere else you'd like to. If you've never done podcasting stuff, just know that this is pretty easy to do. You just click on this thing and you'll learn. It's very easy, good for you. It's smart to kind of stretch your brain. Check it out. Our podcast comes out daily, every day, 7 days a week. And it's short. It's like, what do you say, Mark? What do we average? 12 minutes? 15? 12 to 15 minutes. That's it. So check it out. Jill on Money, the podcast. Okay, so let's get to some more of your questions. This is from Mike, whose message reads, love the show and all the help you provide. Probably one of the few that actually heard Mark's voice. Okay. If you want to hear Mark's voice, come on live with us. Okay, Mike writes, I plan on retiring next year, and I want to move my Fidelity 401k into my current Vanguard account. I have 5 funds within my 401k account, and all of my additions are Roth. My company adds a match. So a portion of those funds are not Roth. Oh, God. Can I just go through Vanguard and they will handle everything? Or do I need to contact Fidelity? If I keep those same 5 funds, Will I now have 10 with half in Roth and half in regular? Would my action have to change if I only planned on keeping some of the funds and rolling the cash out into my current Roth or regular IRA funds? I'm 61. I don't plan on using any of this money for at least 5 years. Thank you for your dedication, Mike. Okay, Mike, here's what I think you're going to do. Forget about these funds right now. The most important thing you can do is make sure that the money that is post-tax money ends up in your Roth and the pre-tax money ends up in your IRA, your regular IRA, or your IRA rollover. So what I would suggest is contact Vanguard. Tell them exactly what you want to do. Don't worry about keeping the funds. Make sure that the money rolls in as cash. You might have like a day where you're not invested. Who cares? But be meticulous about this, because this is exactly the situation that can cause you problems down the line. So your focus should not be on the funds. It should on the meaning the mutual funds that you own, but the focus should be making sure that the pre-tax and the Roth money is separate. And that is going to require a lot of energy on your part to follow up on that. Okay. When you get to Vanguard, just then invest the money. Even if, honestly, even if you don't invest for a few days, don't sweat it. Really, it's not worth it. Okay. All right. Let's see what else we have here. This is from Carmela, who listens to us on WBEN in Buffalo. I love Buffalo. I had a great trip there. Anyway, she just sold her income property and it was a duplex. She doesn't live in the house. And I don't plan on reinvesting in another property. The house sold for $203,000. Is there any way I can avoid paying capital gains taxes? Thank you. Only if you didn't have a capital gain. So there's two levels of taxes that you're going to have to pay, I'm afraid to tell you. Number one, you're going to pay a capital gains tax. So on whatever you purchased, the purchase price, add any improvements you made, that's your cost basis. Now subtract the sales price and boom, you have the actual capital gain. I presume this is long-term capital gain, not a short-term, meaning more than a year that you've held this. So if you are single, the only way you don't pay capital gains is if your income is less than $40,400. If you don't live in the house, now you've got the capital gains tax. That's one level. Then you've got something else that's really hard for people to get their minds around. You ready for this? You, for many years, however many years you've owned this rental property, probably took a tax deduction that's called depreciation. Now, depreciation is an accounting methodology where you say that the property becomes less valuable over a certain amount of time, wear and tear. And when you sell a rental property, you need to recapture the depreciation that you've claimed. And when you recapture that, that does not happen at a capital gains rate. It happens at an ordinary income tax rate. So the answer, Camilla, is that you probably have to talk to an accountant or a tax preparer to make sure you pay all the taxes that are due. And it's going to be a whopper. I promise you that, especially if the longer you've owned the property. So just be careful. Make sure you dot your I's, cross your T's, pay the tax that's due, and be happy that you were able to make a bunch of money on something. So let's not complain about these things, right? We pay our taxes, we move on. That's what we do. Okay, you're listening to Jill on Money. When we return, I'm going to tell you an interesting story that just came up. A colleague of mine at work who asked me about this very same topic. Jill on Money. We'll be right back. You're back. It's Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. And we also have a website called Jill on Money. And if you're on the website and you've got a question, click the contact button and ask us that question. Don't forget to tell us if you would like to join us on the program. Just want to follow up on that last question, which was about the idea of capital gains on rental property. And I talked about this concept called recapture. So one thing that you can do to limit the tax hit on rental property is you could move into the rental property and make that your primary residence. And if you do that for 2 more years, 2 of the next 5 years, you can then avoid that whole recapture thing. And then, Mark, as you were talking about before, you could say, oh, it's my primary residence, and you can claim that nice exemption, which is 250 grand of capital gains that you can escape. So that's kind of cool. I was thinking about this. This is a very New York City story. A colleague of mine called me and said that she owns a property that she lives in, an apartment. The apartment next door came up, and she bought it a long time ago and created rental property. And she said she actually needs more space, this, that, and the other thing. And I said, well, wait a minute. If you break through the wall and you make one big apartment, you may be able to basically now say this is all one primary residence. Bingo. I mean, amazingly able to probably defer any taxation forever. That's kind of cool. I like that. So there's nothing better than deferring forever, if you ask me. Okay. Last question for this hour. Jim's son turns 18 and he wants to start investing money. He has no clue where to start, what to advise. Okay, here's your answer to that. Go buy him my friend Jack Otter's book, Worth It, Not Worth It. Let him read that book first, and then he'll learn kind of the basics of investing. He can also buy The Broke Millennial's Guide to Investing. That's Aaron Lowry's book. But he's got to do a little work before he starts doing any of this, okay? All right, you are listening to Jill on Money, and next hour we've got a fantastic guest, and it's going to be, let me just say this, it's a mouth-watering guest. How about that? Pretty good, huh? All right, Jill on Money, we'll be right back.
It's the weekend, and that can only mean one thing. You're listening to Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. It is the second hour of the program, and if you missed any part of this show, well, I have an answer for you. You don't have to worry. You can just go to our website, jillonmoney.com, and check it out. Later in the weekend. Mark doesn't do it immediately, but the show will be there. You can check out the first hour and you'll feel very up to date. And it was a very exciting first hour. Lots of great questions from you. If you are listening and something going on here jogs your brain and you say, I've got a financial question, or that reminds me of something in my life, send us an email. It's askjill@jillonmoney.com. askjill@jillonmoney.com. And, what we like to do in the second hour of the program is we love to bring you a guest because it's fun. It's fun to hear people's stories and what they are doing. And today we've got a fantastic one. His name is Ilir Sela. He is the CEO, the founder, the creator of the app Slice. Do you not have Slice on your phone? I'm telling you, life changer for me. I never knew about this. I interviewed this guy, and then I started using the app to order pizza from my local place. It's so interesting. This is a wonderful, wonderful entrepreneurial story. It is illuminating, and it makes it feel like anyone with a really smart idea who solves a problem can make it right here in the United States of America, even amid a pandemic. So here's our interview with Ilir Sela. How'd you get into this? I mean, just because you like pizza, or what's the derivation of your love of the idea, and then how did the business form?
I love pizza. I come from 3 generations of small business owners in the pizza industry. I have about 30 family members that own pizzerias, across the country. And personally, I have a tech background, and I saw firsthand some of the challenges that they were facing, especially as some of the big chains started to really accelerate their performance by leveraging technology. And I felt that by bringing sort of that technology background forward, I can help the small business embrace that digital ecosystem and ultimately succeed. And so started by helping some family members with websites and online ordering. Fast forward to today, we work with 14,000 locations nationwide.
You know, it's so funny. I'm sure people are going to listen to this and say, oh, this just started because of the pandemic. But this is now a decade that you've been doing this. Tell us a little bit about how it started, and it did not begin as Slice. So talk about a little bit of the root of the business beginning.
Started the company in 2010 as mypizza.com. At the time, that was the domain name I was able to get. And that ended up being my brand for the first 6 years. Every independent pizzeria has basically operated almost the same way. And I felt that by uniting this local segment and all of these great entrepreneurs, by bringing them together, that we can all be in business for ourselves, not by ourselves, and realize the power of community. And that was way back in 2010.
Now, of course, there's a lot of family-owned businesses that are pizza, but I mean, obviously, a lot of smaller restaurants. We know that pizza sales have gone up during the pandemic. What is it about this particular category, pizza versus a diner, let's say? Why is it that this has become a category that has remained, even though there's big competition, but it has remained as standalone small business? What is it about that? Is it a low barrier to entry? It would seem to me that it's kind of expensive to get the pizza oven, but what is it beyond that makes it more of a small business owner category?
It has a number of really important qualities. One, pizza as a product is an American institution. It is a really high quality product. It is inexpensive. And remember, for most of the country, the average household income is about $48,000 a year. So for so many families, it is their night out in. And it travels really, really well. It's made for delivery. And so when you combine those things, it ends up becoming a very frequent experience. So the average American orders pizza once a week. And so because of that, you have, over the decades, thousands of local businesses opening up, in essence, in every neighborhood around the country. In fact, every neighborhood has a pizza shop. In fact, as more people have, unfortunately lost their jobs, have been impacted by the pandemic, more people are turning to this category as a way for, families to feed themselves on a budget.
Sounds like you're also doing a lot of back office stuff for your clients or your partners. Talk a little bit about what those services are and why are you able to deliver those services to this disparate 14,000 group of owners in a way that's affordable to them, but also gets the job done?
I see my family members. I know why they went into business. They went into business because they're really passionate about this pizza making craft and they want to earn a living. They want to control their own destiny. However, they did not go into a pizzeria business because they know marketing or understand technology or how to process payroll and file taxes. These are all chores, in essence, jobs to be done that they're not necessarily always qualified to do. And so what we really want to do is bring forward our expertise across these categories, allow the maker to focus on what they know best and what they do best, while also accelerating the probability of success. So that's at the core. The second sort of belief system we operate under is that by turning these independents into a community, so that instead of them working just alone, learning from each other and sharing some services and economies of scale, as we say, then we can lower the cost of operating the business. And by doing that, we can pass that value back to the consumer in the form of better prices for the pizza, better quality for the food, faster delivery, and that becomes a virtuous cycle for local. And these are things that big chains like Domino's have realized for multiple years.
It's interesting. I read that part of the services that you are providing, you're able to provide those services because you have some folks who are working overseas. So talk a little bit about what those people are doing and why does it make sense to hire someone outside of the United States to do some of the work that could be done here?
Yeah, look, I've got a belief system that talent has no borders, but unfortunately opportunities do. And so I come from Europe. I was born in Macedonia. I have family members there. There's a massive unemployment rate in the region. And for me, I felt that I can not only help family members with opportunity, but we could also get access to talent that was incredibly untapped. Now, this is a belief system we have regardless of geography. We have a big team in the US. We have a team in Belfast, Northern Ireland. We have a team in Macedonia. We have a team in Argentina. And so it's an approach that we've taken as we've scaled our business in order to give ourselves and our partners, the small business owners, the greatest chance of succeeding.
We'll get back to our interview with Ilir Sela in just a minute. If you are interested in trying to figure out how you can start a business and you want to run some ideas by us, send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com, because there are steps that you can take to prepare for that. Okay, we'll be right back.
Back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger helps you take the mystery out of your finances.
You're back. It's Jill on Money, the show that tries to take the mystery out of your financial life. If you've got a financial question, an investment question, a tax question, anything like that, just send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. This show, the Jill on Money Show, is sponsored in 2021 by Facet Wealth. Facet Wealth is an investment advisory firm that tries to make planning accessible to everyone. How do they do that? Well, first of all, they knock out any wealth or account minimums. So you don't need to have a certain amount of money to do business with these folks. In fact, Facet meets you where you are. They conduct goal-based financial planning, and you get a dedicated advisor, not just someone or other from a call center. They are fiduciaries. They put your needs first, and they're all certified financial planners. So if you are interested in doing some financial planning, tax time is a wonderful time to get your house in order. Come on. Just go to facetwealth.com, facetwealth.com. Okay, so let's get back to our interview with Ilir Sela. Now, if you missed the first part of the interview, don't worry, you can catch up. Just do that later in the weekend. This is a guy who created an app called Slice. In the first part of our interview, he talked about how he got into this business, and he's a bit of a serial entrepreneur. So that's kind of something that many people are afflicted with. I had an entrepreneurial spirit for a very brief period in my life, and now I'm very happy being entrepreneurial on behalf of me and Mark, and that's about it. But I think that what's interesting is that there are a lot of delivery apps out there. What differentiates Slice from the rest of them is something that's really unique. And so in this part of our interview with Ilir Sela, he is discussing the business model behind Slice. Don't forget, you need a business model that works. Here's more of our interview with Ilir Sela. And so let's talk a little bit about your model. Let's just pretend that we've got Jill's Pizzeria on the Upper West Side, even though Little Italy Pizza is my neighborhood pizza place. What does it cost me? How do I sign up? Like, what's the process? And how are you getting people to learn about what you're doing?
Yeah, it's an incredibly simple process. In fact, within 24 hours, we can take a pizza shop that is traditionally offline and doesn't have a website, doesn't have online ordering, isn't part of the Slice ecosystem. Within 24 hours, that all changes very quickly. There is no sign-up fee. There is no setup fee. We bring this incredible platform forward at no cost. And then we work together with the small business to help transition consumer behavior, the orders, from telephone to digital, to online. Because when that happens, the pizzeria makes more money, because of the consumer ordering more food and they order more frequently. So to do that, we charge $2.25 per order.
Wait a minute. Wait. So Jill's Pizza, I sign up with Slice and I don't pay you anything out of the gate,
Correct.
but you charge $2.25 an order. So obviously I'm not, you were not using that to send a slice of pizza, right? There has to be some amount of money for the order that would make it sense for that flat fee, right?
Correct. So our average order value is about $37. So for on average a $37 order, a small business is paying $2.25. We also do not charge for orders that are below $10. There is no fee for $10 or below. Now for the $2.25, what does the pizzeria get? Well, we take responsibility for the entire consumer journey. We handle the order, we process it, we handle the customer service. We make sure that, we upsell the consumer. We follow up with the customer so that they can come back. So we actually retarget them with marketing like push notifications, text messages, emails. So we run that entire playbook on behalf of the small business. So in essence, they're passing the cost of having to answer the phone and making a bunch of mistakes. So instead of paying for that, they're paying Slice to have a much more efficient operation and a much more valuable consumer.
So wait a second. So let's think about that. So let's say Grubhub or DoorDash, compare the models that they provide. I know that's come under a lot of scrutiny, especially during the pandemic, that there are a lot of small restaurants that say, these guys are robbing me blind. I have a local, sort of gourmet-ish store that says to me, I'm losing money on some of these orders. So what is the difference between a sort of the Grubhub DoorDash model and your model?
Yeah, and in fact, they're losing money on every order that comes from DoorDash or Grubhub, and it's by design. Grubhub, DoorDash, Uber Eats have sold small businesses on the promise of bringing new customers. So what they're saying is, sign up with DoorDash, and I'm going to give you access to all these consumers that don't buy from you, and therefore, I'm going to charge you a premium for those customers. And so it's lead generation. It's no different than in the old world, having, phone number on the yellow pages and paying for somebody to call that for that lead. That's the promise of third-party aggregators. Slice's model is actually much more similar to Domino's or Starbucks. Starbucks has their mobile pay app. Domino's has their online app. And we operate with the belief that the vast majority of the business for any small business or large chain needs to come from online channels, because that is the most valuable channel for both the customer and the business. And so we take a first-party approach, not a third-party approach, where we are the core partner to manage that digital transformation. It's not just, we're going to send you new customers. It's that we're going to take your existing business and move it online. And that's going to give you, small business owner, a bunch of cost savings and much more rewarding, much more valuable customers.
I imagine that because, amid the pandemic, pizza sales have gone sky high. So presumably you have seen a big boost throughout 2020 for the business. Is that correct?
Definitely.
What do you think is the big challenge that lies ahead when everybody gets inoculated? It's 6 or 9 months from now, and people are like, oh, I cannot have another slice of pizza. I want to just go out. What happens to your business as that pent up demand is worked out? Does that harm you, or what does that do?
No, actually, the main reason why our business and pizza industry sort of has accelerated, part of it is definitely higher demand where consumers are staying at home and they're ordering takeout and delivery. But really, we're seeing the biggest acceleration in our business because the consumer and the small business have both realized how valuable ordering online and digital is. Because part-time employees were not necessarily showing up to answer the phone. They didn't want to put themselves at risk. Small businesses who really needed to make sure that they access all channels in order to stay afloat became much more open to the idea of working with companies like Slice to enable a technology solution. So I would say the vast majority of our acceleration has been from the consumer behavior going from calling to actually ordering on Slice. And then a slight sort of incremental lift beyond that has been just the consumer demand for pizza in general.
Amazon started with books and then became the everything store. Slice started with pizza. What's the next category? I mean, because of the name, I feel like there are only so many slices you can get. Maybe pie? What's the next category that you see expanding into, if you do it all?
Yeah, no, we're really, really focused on the pizza industry. Obviously Amazon is a great company, but I believe that in order to keep local thriving, and that is fundamentally what grounds us, and that's our mission, you have to be specialized. You have to specialize and solve a lot of different problems for small business owners who aren't qualified to do that themselves and independently. And so for us, we don't have any thoughts about new categories in the near future. It's all about helping this industry make that transition to digital and make sure that small businesses are here and stay afloat for a long time.
Okay, we've got one more segment with Ilir Sela. If you have a financial question, don't hesitate. Send us an email right now. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Do I invest here? Should I put my money there? Jill Schlesinger can help you. Back to Jill on Money.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. This is the show that tries to make your financial life a little bit more fun. Come on, you know we do that. If you have a question, it can be in any area of your financial life. It could be, maybe it's a school loan. Maybe it's a question about your retirement. Maybe it's an estate planning issue. We don't care. Send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. And if we don't know the answer, we have a lot of friends who do know the answers. We can always call people who are out there who are experts in whatever is important in your financial life. And I just want to make that point, which is that, I don't know everything. Mark doesn't know everything. We do our best here. But if we don't know something, we are certainly capable of saying we don't know. And we usually will check back and get back to you, especially when these are like many thorny tax issues that come up. Sometimes we get stumped on the Social Security questions because, boy, that is some system. That's a nutty system, but a little bit easier now. If we don't know the answer, we'll find it for you. All you need to do is to send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. If you are on our website, if you're on the jillonmoney.com website, maybe it's because you're using the resource section, just something comes up in your brain. Click the contact button. We'll get that note. Okay, let's finish up our interview with Ilir Sela, the CEO, the founder of Slice. And he's going to give us a little advice if you want to become an entrepreneur. Here's the rest of our interview with Ilir Sela. Now, I know what you're going to tell me because every entrepreneur I talk to, when I ask the following question, says, no way, I'm going it alone. But you've just had a phenomenal year of growth. I'm not looking at your P&L. I'm just assuming that. And there have to be some big people knocking at the door. And so the question is, would you consider taking advantage of sort of a dumb money offer to take you out of this business or expand the business with a partner and cash out?
I am incredibly open-minded about all opportunities that come forward that can help accelerate our mission and our vision. If there's a company that comes forward, and we do get a bunch of inbound requests, but if there's the right relationship that presents itself that I know can create what I call a 1 + 1 = 3 scenario and help us accelerate our vision, I'm always really, really open-minded to that. But I don't think of it as cashing out. I don't think of myself as doing something different, 5 years from now. So it's all about our mission.
Fair enough. Let's wind the clock back for a year ago. It's the beginning of, let's pretend it's the beginning of 2020. And what did you think was going to be your biggest struggle for 2020 when the year began?
I had just hired 3 new executives to my team. And I wouldn't say a struggle, but the number one area of focus for me was how do we now turn it's 6 of us on our leadership team. How do we go from 6 individuals to one great team? It's so interesting. I try to look for silver linings in everything that happens. And while we were presented, especially in the beginning, with some incredible challenges for both our teams and our partners, what it did was it accelerated our team formation. And it really forced us to become a great team quickly instead of 6 individuals. But that was my number one objective going into the year.
It's kind of like the sink or swim thing. Like, I know some people, they were like in young relationships, like love relationships. And it was like, well, either COVID's going to make this thing just like flower blossom and it will be the one, or you're going to learn quickly, I do not want to be with this person. So I'm glad it worked out for you guys. So when you look ahead and, you look back a little bit, because now you have had 10 years under your belt. What's been really hard for you? What do you hate doing at work?
I don't hate doing anything, but what's really, really challenging for a founder and a CEO, and look, I've never operated a company that's going to do, and we'll do over $1 billion in transactions this year.
Wow.
I've never been in that position. And when a company's growing that fast, my role has to evolve almost every 6 months. I literally need to be a different leader 6 months from now. And I was absolutely a different leader 6 months ago. Recognizing that and being okay with that and open-minded to that sounds like an easy thing, but it's not. It's incredibly challenging. And so that's the one area that I would say continues to be not necessarily a challenge, but it's a very difficult thing to accept. I look forward to the challenges of kind of evolving in 2021, but that's always been the number one sort of challenge.
If you meet with young entrepreneurs, oftentimes they have very different kind of backgrounds than you do. So let's just like call a spade here, right? You're like tough guy, grew up in Staten Island, didn't go to an Ivy League school, and you've had all this great success. And a lot of people feel like in order to be a successful entrepreneur, I have to go to Harvard or Stanford and have lots of rich relatives who start the process of seeding a business. Talk to the young person or a family that's inspired by this story and tell them they don't need all of those fancy degrees. Give them a little bit of a boost here.
Whether you have a fancy degree or don't have a fancy degree, passion and learning and knowledge is really all you need. And really for me, it started with something that was so personal and I'm so passionate about that it led me to learn everything about this one category, this one industry, and what we're trying to do. Why that is important? It's because there's going to be some real challenges. And unless you're incredibly passionate about the direction you're going in, you're going to end up giving up. So what I see is a lot of people going and doing things because it's how they think they're going to make the most money, or because they think it's what they went to school for and they're, maybe went to Harvard. But really, it's all about passion and the belief that you are the best person on the planet who can solve a very particular problem and a need. And you don't need a crazy background like a Harvard background in order to do that. That opportunity, that's the beauty of America. That opportunity is given literally to basically everyone. Find that passion, immerse yourself in that domain, and take a very long-term approach.
Thanks again to Ilir Sela for joining us. Go download the Slice app right now and check it out. And when we return, we'll get back to more of your questions. We'll be right back.
.401ks, IRAs, refinancing, she covers it all. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. We are here finishing up the program, answering your financial questions. If something's on your mind, just let us know. And when you send us that email to askjill@jillonmoney.com, when you do that, let us know if you'd like to join us on the program. I think that is so much fun. I love it. And you will join in the broadcast at the Capital One Bank virtual studios. Capital One, this is banking reimagined. What's in your wallet? All right, so let's get to some of these questions, Mark. We got things to do here. All right, this is from Jerry, who retired 9 months ago. How great is that? Jerry's 67, his wife is 65. Okay, here's what they got. $172,000 in I bonds, $122,000 in a 401k stable value fund, $177,000 in Roth CDs, $70,000 in taxable CDs, $53,000 in a money market account. So it's about $600,000 in total savings. And you'll notice, gang, this is a very, very minimal risk portfolio, right? I bonds, stable value, CDs, little money market. All right. So Social Security for Jerry is about $30,000 for the year. On top of that, almost $20,000 in pension income. And so there you go. You got that. So that's kind of nice. 50 grand. And then in a year, his wife's going to start drawing Social Security for another 15,000. So right now, their expenses are $3,700 a month, including Medicare and supplements. With our current conservative investments, when will our savings run out? Will we be okay? Any other advice? Mark, do you think they're going to run out of money? No, I don't think so at all. I mean, I think that you'll have $65,000 of taxable income. And of that, you only, even after you pay your taxes, you're basically kind of covering your income needs with what's coming in already. I don't even know if you're going to have to draw on the stuff that's in that conservative investment structure. So here's what I would say, Jerry. I think you're in good shape. The thing that would derail it is if you had some big, huge expense. I mean, your day-to-day expenses of 44 grand, that seems fine. But like if you needed you need a car, you need something like that, that's when you start eating into it. So hopefully, it seems to me at least, you're in good shape. I think you're in good shape. And I would put a little bit of that money, maybe in, I guess I wouldn't mind having like maybe 20% in stocks. That's just in case we get a little inflation that bubbles up. That's like the one risk. I don't know. I think that you could use a little bit of inflation protection. And I know you have the I bonds, but I think maybe 20% in stocks if you could handle it, if that's okay for you. Okay. Roger is a fellow Long Islander. Way to go, Roger. Hope you're an Islander fan. Absolutely love the podcast. It's like finding an unknown treasure. Oh, that's so sweet. And he says he's catching up on previous episodes. So, okay. He says he and his wife are in good financial shape. They've got 4 kids. Oh my God, 27 to 31. They're getting increasingly more interested in money and how to plan for their futures. 3 of them are contributing to their 401ks. The 4th is a working artist who has her own LLC. If there are 2 or 3 things to keep first and foremost in mind for young people working toward a lifetime financial plan, what would they be? Okay. Number 1 is to cover the big 3, which is have an emergency reserve fund of 6 to 12 months of expenses. And that's most important if for any one of these kids who is self-employed, maybe like your working artist child. Number 2, stay out of credit card or other consumer debt. Pay that stuff down as quickly as possible. Number 3, put as much money as possible into a retirement account. And for the working artist, make sure that the working artist maybe opens a Roth IRA. If possible, make this money that is invested in retirement accounts for the younger ones Roth money. The Roth will set you free, meaning chances are in your late 20s and your early 30s, you're not making as much as you will earn later in your life. Pay the tax today. So I would say Roth. And then beyond that, if you can max out those accounts, $19,500 a year for a 401k, man, that is some good stuff. If your kids have questions about investing, just tell them, keep it simple, stupid. Use some index funds, go to sleep at night. You can feel free to turn them on to the podcast and see if they have their own questions that they want answered. I really encourage you to encourage them to take control. And I think that's most important. So that's really nice. And by the way, his subject was Jill on Money is a 5-star listen. Isn't that nice? All right, Roger, go Islanders. LGI, let's go Islanders. See that, Mark? See how I wove that in? Mark just gave me a snort chortle from a Rangers fan. Of course, he can edit out whatever he wants because he does control the show. All right, you're listening to Jill on Money. When we return, one more question before we close it out for the day. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. That's where we are. Okay, be right back. You're back. It's Jill on Money. And before we close out the program, we want to remind you that you can send us an email anytime. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. And if you're on our website, because maybe you went to the jillonmoney.com website because you wanted to sign up for the free weekly newsletter, or maybe you wanted to buy my book, The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money. I don't know, but you could have just been around the website. If you're poking around the website, first of all, bookmark it. Second of all, do me a favor. Click the contact button if a financial question arises whenever you're there. Okay? All right. This is from Joseph, who says, I'm wondering about high yield online savings accounts. I currently have one with Discover Bank. They are paying 0.4%. Now I see that Marcus, which is owned by Goldman Sachs, is paying 0.5%. Is Marcus a reputable company? Yes, Marcus is definitely a reputable company. By the way, they used to be the sponsor of my podcast a couple of years ago. But Marcus is owned by Goldman Sachs. It is reputable. They've made a commitment to be in the business. So I think that you can feel comfortable putting your money there. For those of you listening who have a question about where you can earn more money with your money, I would encourage you to check out depositaccounts.com. Depositaccounts.com. There you can find an aggregation of the highest yielding savings accounts, CDs, checking, money markets. And as long as these places carry FDIC insurance or SIPC, if it's a money market, Securities Industry Protection Corporation insurance, you're fine. But check it out. All right, I think that's it. That's all the time we have. So if you would like to reach us, don't forget, it's askjill@jillonmoney.com. We know that things are getting better across the country with the pandemic. Go get your vaccines if you can. But until then, and until further notice, continue to wash your hands, to wear your masks, to maintain your physical distancing, and try to do something nice for someone else today. Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you next week.